Hey everyone, it's Harmon with Misfit Adventure, and welcome to part 10 of our Making Challenge mode. So, as we're here, we left with either, Gerard staying or going, but let's just assume he stays now. So, first things first, we need to make sure that we make sample maps. We have the door as an icon, but it doesn't do anything. Just making sure that it plays all the door noises. Now, this is one of those weird ones where we're not going into a new map. So it's important right here, as we can see that we've set the designation for the player to end up right here. And same thing when they go back and step on these three bottom ones, which I'll show in a little bit more clarity. I don't want to change anything. That, the player will end up here if they end up going back and forth. So it is a transfer, but it's a transfer onto the same map. Now, that's just good to know in general, but it does matter for a key reason, because we want to have an event where if Gerard is in our party, he has to face some tough questions of his current two. Now, there is a much better way to do this than what I did, which is using regions, but I want to kind of cover that in later videos as we go. So, whatever your opinions on this, sometimes you could say, hey, that's a failure of game design. Sometimes, not. We just made it so that the player is going to have to step on this square to move forward. I have plans for these two little monster guards with some thematic things. So right now they're just some strange things that only say hello hero either way. There's no need to put any more functionality in them right now as we go. The biggest thing to do is to have them step on it. Now, if the NPC guard is on, is going to be the biggest determining factor on it. And I'm going to skip down to the end where we see else nothing happens, which is perfect. That's all we really need it to do. So this event essentially just won't activate unless we've turned this NPC guard on. And the only way to do that right now is if we get Gerard. So, yeah, because if Gerard it doesn't appear, you don't have the ability to turn this switch on at all. Now, we could just do it for safety reasons, for any other control. In fact, let's just go ahead and add that in, because we already have this self switch of it just not happening. So let's just say self switch A goes on. Now, this is a good example of, it's not going to break your game, but it could if you do the wrong things and then you have to go back into it. So really, as you're going through your game design journey, if you're following along with this and have any desire to, take these game files and run with it yourself, is to just know that we do this just to make sure nothing's going to break later. Once this turns on, we don't have to worry about this event reactivating on something else, which is good because there's a lot of story that's involved in it. So if we turn the guard NPC on, we kind of do what we did in the first series in episode 1, where we're going to make sure we have Gerard be at a certain point. He's going to be temporarily out of our party. And now we're making a variable of whether the guard is alive equals 1. This is going to be kind of important. So let's look at this as we go. So we're going to start introducing some mortality for our side characters. Right now, the decision has just been made, and once you make it, just keep it that our silent protagonist is going to be the hero no matter what. So it really matters more of what NPCs are staying alive. And the ones we have for sure are the guard, this character Jess, which we'll get into, and whether Elliot is actually staying alive or not. He's essential now, but might not be in the future in the end game. Oh, but let's not change that. So we're going to make sure the guard alive being 1. Why do we do this? Because we're kind of forward planning a lot of our decisions on it. This can be, whether we go to a camp, we go to settings, it's going to matter that if the variable is there, the character is actually going to appear automatically or not. So then we're going to make sure we just fade in the screen. It just looks a little bit better visually. There's of course, personal preference to adding wait timers or whatever else you want to do. And then we just set the movement. Notice we call this event guard 2. Guard 2 is only going to appear if we have Gerard. So it's just better to kind of like set it there. He explains, we have these characters move, and then we have our first big decision in here. So, sorry. There we go. Gerard appeals to us, and then if you watched episode 2, see that he's telling the truth, or I didn't see that. If he's telling the truth, the characters just kind of accept that. We can make better story writing if we really want to, but also this is meant to be more fun and quick. So we have enough explanation, and I relooked at some old JRPGs, and this is better than you usually get, so I'm going with it. Now we can see that the guard's luck stays on, and that's going to be important later, and then we control self-switch A being on. If you don't see it though, then we're going to turn the guard NPC off, and we're going to have him going there. We still turn guard's luck being on, but we do set it so that the guard alive variable is 0. So this way we know that even if we took Gerard in the camp, we're not going to have him later appear. And then, of course, we just take the self switches on, which appears nothing. So this does point out to something that as you go, you need to make sure you look forwards and backwards in game design. Let's go back to here where if Randley actually wins. So it's this very first event. So he takes his slash and does on the guard. Whether or not, we should go ahead and set this. Control variables. Guard alive should equal 0. All right, we're going to do that so that in the future, if we have it, we're not going to have the guard randomly appear in our camp. Again, it might not break it, but now we know for sure that it's not going to, because we've already removed this character's possibility. So let's look at the next switches in video 10. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Happy gaming.